Okay, Monet, I sent you a prompt. If you could answer the prompt. Okay, I'll resend it.
Now I got it. Thank you, Kimberly. Can you hear me?
I can.
Great, thanks.
Kimberly?
Hello, Mike.
Hey, you're there. Good. And you can hear me.
I can hear you.
Awesome. Okay, I'm gonna exit myself. I'm gonna try to share the screen real quick here. And I think it'll be fine, but I just let me give it a go.
Well, you won't be able to share your screen while I'm sharing my screen. So let me take this down for a moment if you want to give that a try.
Yeah, good. Let me
Hang on.
it didn't come through. Dang it. I don't think I can do it this way. Let me try.
Hey there, while he's working on that, I just want to make sure that you're able to hear me.
Yes, sounds great.
And you can see me.
Yes.
Thank you.
Morning.
Sherry. Oh. I don't think I can do it. Dang it. Dang it. Okay. I'm trying out something else here.
Hey, Mike, I'm gonna get the agenda up and um, you'll have a few minutes to maybe try to figure things out on your end, but Monet's item is first, so we'll have some time to you'll have some time to uh, figure out the presentations, but I'll have them queued up anyway if we need them, if it turns out we need them. But I'm going to go ahead and share.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Hello, everyone, and good morning. I'm Sherry Mead, Zoning Administrator, and I'd like to call to order the August 18th, 2022 Zoning Administrator meeting, public meeting at 10:32 a.m. Pursuant to Government Code Section 54953E and the recommendation of the Sonoma County Health Officer, the Zoning Administrator will be facilitating this meeting via Zoom webinar. Members of the public can participate virtually at www.zoom.us/join or by calling toll free 877-853-5257. And if you do call in, they'll ask for a meeting number, and it's 880-9549-2869. As you can see, Kimberly has that same information up, which is part of the agenda as well. Members of the public accessing the meeting through Zoom can provide comments during the public comment periods, and additional information related to participation is available at www.srcity.org/zoning admin. For those who prefer, the meeting is also being live streamed on YouTube, and you can find it at www.youtube.com/City of Santa Rosa. So the second thing on the agenda is public comment. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to open up a public comment period for items that are not on the agenda. So if somebody has something they would like to share and make a comment about that is within the purview of the zoning administrator, but is not one of the items listed, which will have their own comment period, now would be the time to do so. And our recording secretary, Kimberly, is going to provide instructions on how you can be recognized if you would like to comment.
Thank you, Ms. Zoning Administrator. Couple ways to participate in our meeting at any time where public comment is appropriate. As she mentioned, this is public comment for non-agenda items, and there will be public comment periods for each of the items. But the way to participate is either to raise your hand within the Zoom meeting. That should be on a toolbar, either at the top of your screen or the bottom of your screen, depending on your device, what kind of device you're on. And for those that are called, we do have one person that called in on the phone. To raise your hand if you want to make public comment at any time, just press *9, and that will show a prompt for me, and I'll be able to get you unmuted. Other than that, that's about how it should go today. And
Thank you so much.
So far, I mean, we can give it another moment or two, but for the non-agenda items, I don't see any hands so far.
Okay. We'll give it just a second, just in case. Speak now or forever hold your peace. Anyways, okay, so no public comment. I'm going to close the public comment period and move on to item 3 on the agenda, which is zoning administrator business. And zoning administrator business includes the zoning administrator statement of purpose, which I'm going to read to you right now. The zoning administrator is appointed by the Planning and Economic Development Director and has the responsibility and authority to conduct public meetings and hearings and to take action on applications for all administrative permits and minor discretionary permits. A determination or decision by the zoning administrator may be appealed to the Design Review Board, Cultural Heritage Board, Planning Commission, or City Council as applicable to the decision. Next things on the agenda are zoning administrator reports and consent items. We don't have either one of those today, so we're going to jump right into the meat of the meeting and get to our scheduled items. So our first scheduled item is item 5.1, a minor conditional use permit for a cannabis micro business use at 2717 Giffen Avenue. It'll be presented by our senior planner, Monet Shikali. Take it away, Monet.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, Sherry. I'm going to go over this project and share my screen. Okay, there you go. Okay, as you mentioned, this is a minor conditional use permit for GB2 LLC commercial cannabis cultivation at 2717 Giffen Avenue. So the project is a minor conditional use permit for a micro business, type 12, that is going to include a 90 square feet of commercial cannabis cultivation and 100 square feet of manufacturing and 9,258 square feet of distribution within the existing building. Here is a project site. So this whole campus is almost being used for cannabis uses and is already fenced and secured. They have multiple different zoning clearances or use permits for different cannabis type uses on this property. And here where the project is going to be located within this building, where the red rectangle is being shown. Here is the the site plan that again shows the location for the proposed use within 2717 Giffen Avenue. And here is the floor plan. So I have to mention that there is a distribution already within this floor plan. Here is the area in green that has approval for a distribution land use, and the applicant is proposing to add the 9,000 square feet and 100 square feet of cultivation and manufacturing, so change it to a micro business use. And the applicant has provided security plan, odor plan, and lighting plan that shows how the project complies with the regulation for cannabis uses. And as for public comments, I have not received any comments or concerns about the proposed project. And the project has been reviewed in compliance for CEQA and qualifies for a Class 1 exemption, in that the project is within an existing facility involving negligible expansion of the existing use. And with that, the Planning and Economic Development Department recommends that the zoning administrator by resolution approve a minor conditional use permit for the property located at 2717 Giffen Avenue. And I am available to answer questions. And I know the applicant team, Troy, is also here today. So if you have any questions, he can go over the project. It's a straightforward, very simple project. They have a distribution. They are adding 90 square feet of cultivation and 100 square feet of manufacturing. And that was my presentation. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Senior Planner Shikali. Does the applicant have any presentation or any words they want to say, or should we just move on into opening public comment?
The applicant doesn't have any presentation. He is available to answer any questions.
Perfect.
Anyone from the public have.
Excellent. So I'll go ahead and open public comment on this item. So as Recording Secretary Kimberly stated, please raise your hand via the Zoom webinar raised hand feature or *9 on your phone, and she can promote you to give your 3 minutes of comment.
I don't see any raised hands.
Okay, with that, we'll go ahead and close the public comment period. And I actually do have a couple of questions, not that have anything to do with approval, as Planner Shikali stated very succinctly. This is a very straightforward project, which I will be approving today. I do have a couple of questions that will help me and my knowledge base, and also just would like clarification on them. So the project description didn't specifically address pesticide use in the new cultivation area. So I'm just wondering, should we assume that it's going to be the same situation as what is existing now, or how will that be addressed? And then the second question I have is, the odor mitigation plan refers to routine verification of odor mitigation effectiveness and routine monitoring of exhaust system differential static pressure. I'm wondering if the applicant would be willing to share with me, is there a schedule that's considered best practice, or how do you decide when that routine maintenance needs to occur?
Okay, Troy, I'm going to send you a prompt, and you'll be able to answer that prompt, and it should unmute your sound.
Hello. Can you guys hear me? Okay, great. So I apologize. I don't have the sort of direct answer, but I can get with the mechanical engineer and the facilities, and maybe send you a kind of a reply on that question.
That's perfectly fine, Troy. Like I said, this has nothing to do with the approval. I will be approving the project. I just would like to know this myself, and I thought maybe if any members of the community were on, they too might want that information. So yeah, if you don't mind sending that, that would be super interesting to me.
Will
I
do.
appreciate it. So with that, I will be approving this project. It's very straightforward approval since this use is proposed within an existing building that's in an industrial complex that has similar uses within other buildings on the same site. So I will note that this action is final unless an appeal is filed with the city clerk's office within 10 calendar days of today's decision. So that would be Monday, August 29th, 2022. So thank you very much, Planner Chicali and applicant team. Next, we will move on to item 5.2, which is a hillside development permit for 980 Madeline Court, file number HDP 22-002. And our presenting planner is Mr. Mike Wixon.
Okay, thank you, Sherry. As Sherry mentioned, my name is Mike Wixon. I'm a contract planner with the city. And this project is about 1.7 acres. It's in a PD 77 zone, 77001, Wild Oak subdivision. It's a rural residential general plan designation. It's a hillside development permit for the development of a new home on a site that has slopes that are greater than 10%. And it's a pretty straightforward project. I want to be sure that I'm sharing my screen with you right now. So can you see the slides?
Yes, we can.
Excellent.
Mike, just to let you know, what you see on the, I'm sharing my screen because I thought I was confused as to which one of us were. So if you just let me know, I can advance it for you.
Yeah, that's great. If you can go ahead and go to the next slide. Okay, so this is just showing the location of the project itself. You can see that there's a tree canopy there. It's at the intersection of Madeline Court and White Oak. There's actually homes surrounding the property. These are larger lots, so it's kind of difficult to see where those homes are, and it's very well populated with trees. The site itself is higher, kind of on the back side of the property, so further along White Oak Drive. It's a higher point the further away you go from Madeline Court, and it gets lower in the slope and the topography as it goes towards Madeline Court. So if you can go to the next slide, please. I think I gotta get, there we go. Okay, thank you. And so this is a topography map, and it just shows that the topography that I mentioned and how the site generally slopes. And it also slopes, like if you're looking from the south side along White Oak, it actually, that's kind of the higher side. I mentioned that. So it's high to low it would be the southeast corner, that being the high point, and then down to a lower point at the northwest corner. And then it generally slopes off to the adjacent property to the north as well. Okay, and the next slide, please. So this is a slope analysis. So the areas in green are less than 10% slope. The areas in yellow are 10 to 25% slope. And then the areas in orange are 25% slope or greater. And you can see the general outline of the driveway coming off of Madeline Court, and then to the garage, and then also the house just to the right of that. And so to the next, well, actually, before you go, I just want to make the point that you can see that the home and the garage are primarily on slopes that are 10% to 25%. So it's out of areas, mostly out of areas that are 25% or greater. It's set back into the property to take advantage of the tree line so that the home isn't out in front away from the trees, which just completely expose the home. Most of the homes in this area are kind of nested back into the tree line. This is the home location is actually just a little bit back into the tree line to take advantage of the trees and the slopes. And so if you could go to the next slide, please. So this is the latest site plan, and basically what the applicant had done is they had taken the garage on the previous slide. If you were able to notice, I don't know if you saw the details on that, but there was actually a retaining wall on the south side proposed, south side of the garage. What the applicant did is redesign the project to remove that retaining wall and then actually make the garage itself, the south side of the garage and a little bit of the north, a little bit of the east and west walls also make it the retaining wall. And so that reduced the grading. It nests the garage back into the slope that's existing there. So it makes it work better with the topography. And then there were some small adjustments made to the house also to minimize tree removal and add a couple retaining walls to save a few trees. And that was more along the front side of the house. So if you could go to the next slide, please. This is just showing a few of the trees that are proposed for removal. When you nest it back into a heavily wooded area, it's virtually impossible not to remove trees. So these trees will be mitigated with a tree removal permit that will be submitted with the building permit. And it's pretty straightforward. There are several trees that will be removed. And that basically, this site plan also shows the retaining wall to the south that also prevents more slab grading. The foundation system itself is also more of the T-footing with pure and grade beams. So it's not a slab grading or a pad grading. And it basically runs with the slope from north to south. So if you can go to the next slide, please. This is just a map showing a series of cross sections that are available for the home. I just want to be sure that they're available. I'll just highlight one or two here, and then I'll just kind of move through them. I don't think I need to go through all of them. They're available though. So if you'd like to discuss them, or if you need to clarify anything, they are available. So if you could go to the next slide, please. So this is the home, I believe it's section CC, and it's looking east-west. And again, if you go back to the previous slide, so you see the house axis is pretty much running north-south. So this slide is looking east-west. If you can flip back, it's an east-west axis. So you can see how, this is basically looking, if you look at the left side of the slide, it's kind of the north side, or I'm sorry, the south side of the property. And as you run along the topography there, and the grade line, that's going to the north. So this is kind of a cross section of the house, and it just gives you an opportunity to see how they're using a pier and grade beam T-footing foundation system to minimize the grading. And then it also shows a little bit of that porch in the front to the left side. So if you can go to the next slide, please. And so now this is looking north-south. So this is looking on the kind of the longitudinal section. And again, if you look at the, if you're looking at the right side, I want to be sure I get this right. If you're looking at the right side of this slide, you're generally seeing from the, see, north-south. So this would, again, this would be, from the right side, you're seeing the south side of the property. And then as you move to the left side, where the stem wall's higher and taller, that would be the north side of the property. So this is a little bit more of the longitudinal section. I believe that's what this cross section is showing. And if you could go to the next slide. Again, I'm not going to highlight each one of these. What you're seeing is the use of the stem wall pier and grade beam foundation system to minimize grading. And that's the key point that is made here, because that demonstrates the consistency with the findings that are necessary for a hillside development permit. So if you can go to the next slide, please. This is these are the elevations of the garage itself. And so you see the front, the side, and looking at the side and the rear elevations, you can see how the wall itself is used as the retaining wall. And that was done to reduce grading and then also reduce the number of trees being removed. And if you can go to the next slide, please. This is just demonstrating the pad of the garage itself. And if you look on the left and right side of the elevations there, you'll see where that basically where the wall is used to create the retaining wall. So if you go to the next slide, please. And again, this is just showing the back side of the wall. You can see at the back side or the right side that wall on the back is used as a retaining wall. And you can see where the grade comes into the wall there. And so you can see how they've done this to reduce the amount of grading and again, to save a few trees on that back side. If you can go to the next slide, please. So a couple of the key findings for Hillside development permit are that the project grading respects the natural features and visually blends with adjacent properties, and that the building pad location, design, and construction avoid large areas of flat pads, and building forms are instead stepped to conform to the site topography. And you can see how that was done with the footing and foundation system for the building pad location. They've avoided large slab or pad grading areas. The project grading respects the natural features on the sites because, just for example, how it is stepped with the topography from south to north, and it follows that, as well as the driveway generally follows the grading. I mean, you have to bring it in somewhere, and it's generally accepted to bring it in off of Madeline and up to the garage. So given that, if you can go to the next slide, Kimberly. We're recommending approval of the project. There's a resolution that's available there in front of you with recommended conditions of approval. And then there's an Exhibit A. And the Exhibit A is generally saying basically that the applicant will comply with all the codes and requirements of the city according to what we have at this point in time or when they submit the building permit. And so that'll require compliance with building code, zoning code, and any landscaping code as well. At the time that they submit the building permit. So with that, that concludes my presentation. I believe Gary is, I don't know if he's online or not. I've spoken with him before, so he might be here. Anyway, that's my presentation.
Great, thank you, Planner Wixon, for the very thorough presentation. You answered a couple of the questions I had about the project. I do still have one question I would like to ask, and that is if there's any public comment about this project. Let's do that first. If anybody has a public comment, or if the applicant would like to obviously make a presentation or say a few words, please indicate that before I dive into my stuff. I'm eager, can you tell? So we'll open up the public comment for just a couple minutes. If you have anything you would like to say about this project, please raise your hand. Okay, I'm going to close the public comment. So the question I did have about the project, the only one left that you did not answer already, Planner Wixon, is the topographical map that was submitted with the application refers to a field survey that was conducted in May of 2017. And I'm just wondering if this site was affected by either the glass or Tubbs fire, or if there have been any other substantial changes to the parcel itself since that original survey was done in May of 2017.
Yeah, and to my knowledge, nothing's changed. So you can see that Kimberly, if you're able to flip to the city aerial it's towards the beginning of the slide presentation. So basically the aerial that is shown on this slide is from 2020. So you can see that it pretty much matches what was there. So there haven't been any changes. And I know that the applicant's been maintaining the property. So it's well maintained.
Excellent. Okay, that's good. And you already addressed my question about the siding of the house and how it was decided to put it there rather than a little bit more forward, where it wouldn't have had to be in the more sloped area. So I appreciate that. I'm going to propose one amendment to the conditions of approval. I do want to make sure that we add the condition of approval that a tree mitigation report be required at the time of building permit submittal, which you addressed, but I want to make sure that's a condition of approval. But the second change I'm proposing is that although, you know, the residences in the neighborhood are pretty well spaced apart, noise travels. And it's a residential neighborhood. So I would like to propose that construction hours be limited to between 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, and 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Saturday. And then the statement related to no construction on Sundays and holidays would remain. So have you had I know we mentioned this earlier in the week, has the applicant had a chance to agree with that, or?
I haven't heard back from the applicant on that. And
okay, are they on the call to agree with it? If not, I'll sign the resolution that way. Do you see the applicant raising their hand, possibly, Kimberly?
I don't see any raised hands, and I don't see anyone by the name that Mike mentioned earlier.
Okay, well then,
unless it's the phone caller, which I can't see the name of the phone caller, but that's about all I can see.
so let's remind the phone caller, if it is the applicant, that you raise your hand by doing *9.
Okay, and we
it
do
might,
have a raised
it
hand,
might
so-
also be William Billiter,
Okay,
the engineer.
let's try the phone call, because I did see the raised hand on the phone call.
Oh, good.
So it's a caller ending 4321. You should be able to get your sound enabled there.
Do you know how to? Oh,
There you
they
go.
did it.
Yes. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, this is William Billiter with BC Engineering Group chiming in. I am viewing on Zoom and then had to call in. I don't have a microphone. Gary Gillette is the applicant and the owner. I talked to him this morning. He was not planning on attending, so I don't believe he's on the call or viewing through Zoom.
Okay, well, I will sign the resolution with those changes to the construction hours and adding a condition of approval requiring a tree mitigation report at the time of building permit submittal. And this action is final unless an appeal is filed with the city clerk's office within 10 calendar days of today's decision, which would be Monday, August 29th, 2022. So thank you, Planner
Thank you,
Wixon.
William.
And thank you, caller. So our last item is 5.3, a hillside development permit for a rebuild project at 3507 Hanover Place, city file number HDP 22-011, and the presenting planner is again Mr. Mike Wixon.
Okay. And
Mike,
I
I'm going to
can share-
hesitate this time to make sure you can share your screen.
All right. So I'll give it a go to see if I can share my screen for this one. And I'll get started up. Oh. I believe this is it. Does that look?
Looks good.
Looks good. Okay, good. So am I on project description right now, or let me?
It looks like the opening page, the one with the address and the
Okay, great.
file number.
Oh, okay, I see. What's interesting is I see it differently on my screen. I've got two screens. One screen shows I'm on the second page, so it's a little confusing. All right, so this is another hillside development permit. Thank you for being patient while I set this up. And this hillside development permit is on 3507 Hanover Drive. It's in a PD 93004A zone. It's also a resilient city area, which means it has been it was in the Tubbs Nunn Fire area and was affected by the fire. There was previously a home on the site that burned down. So this is a reconstruction project. And what that means for this project, it's a little unique. because what that means for staff is that we're looking at just those areas outside of the old development footprint that have slopes 10% or greater. So the home itself is shown as a, here, I'll go to the next slide. Did that
Mike,
take
I
it
was
to the
gonna,
next
I was
slide?
gonna say, if you minimize the screen that shows 2, it might be easier to see the screen you're on.
Okay.
Sometimes it's behind it.
Huh. And now I'm sharing the wrong screen.
Would it be easier if we just had recording secretary Kimberly Hopwood start sharing?
Yeah, I think it would. Sorry, Kimberly. I tried.
No, no worries.
Let's give her a minute to get that set up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and go ahead and
Here, I'll take this down.
yeah. Actually, yeah. There we go.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so if we can go to the next slide, please. So what I was trying to say is, although the project is described as a new 4,400 square foot home, it has essentially 2 garages and an ADU, and it is in a fire rebuild area. Our analysis of the project is just for those areas outside of that older previous footprint. So if we can go to the next slide, please. So I mentioned this is just a slide showing the pre-fire, just kind of demonstrating where that home was on the site. And then if you could go to the next slide, please. This is post-fire, obviously, so you can see the extent of the fire damage. You can see that they had a pool in the back, so there was quite a bit of development on the project site. Well, over half of the site was, at least by this slide visually, appears to have been developed. So if you go to the next slide, please. This is an original house site plan, and you can see the footprint of the home that was there. This is before the pool was constructed, so you don't necessarily see the pool at this point in time. So you can go to the next slide, please. So this is the new proposed layout and site plan. So if you can flip back again, please. And then flip forward again. And I don't know if you're able to see it, but the next slide will demonstrate this fairly clearly. But before you go to the next slide, you'll see that you have these darker gray areas, a couple of them, and those darker gray areas are the garages that are proposed with the new home. And then the lighter gray areas are the living areas on basically the bottom floor, showing where those living areas are in the footprint of the new home itself. And then to the south, you'll see just a small little area outside for a patio. It's kind of like a hashed area. And then to the west side on the main floor in the main home, you will see like a new patio. It's not new patio, it's actually replacing the old patio, but it's just slightly bigger than it was before. So what I want to also call out here is you have the main residence, which is the primary area in the light gray. It's the larger area. Like if you were driving in the driveway and came up to this residence, it's what you would first see. So it's kind of right in front of you there. I don't know how else to describe that. It's the larger light gray area. And then there's a smaller light gray area to the south that is the proposed new accessory dwelling unit. And this is for essentially the owner's mother-in-law to live in. So it's being designed as an accessory dwelling unit. The accessory dwelling unit is a new development area. And if you look at the garage for the primary unit and kind of to the west of that, as you see the projection of the floor of the house going to the west towards the back of the property, That's also some new developed area. And those are the primary areas that we're looking at with this permit. So if you go to the next slide, please. I don't know if how visible this is, but you can see the blue outline over the previously existing home. And the blue outline is the new area or the new footprint overlaid on top of the previously existing home. So that gives you a good exposure as to what we're looking at with this permit. And so any areas in the blue that were not previously developed is exactly what we're looking at for this permit. So then if you can go to the next slide, please. So the design of the home is also another it's a stem wall, T-footing, pure and grade beam foundation system. Even the garage itself and the ADU utilize some stem wall and pure and grade beam foundation system. The ADU and garage attached to the ADU are stepped down in the grade quite a bit. The design of the home itself also steps down a little bit. You'll see the slopes of it's a hip roof design generally.
Planner
throughout.
Wixon, I believe we're looking at the original house elevations on this slide.
You are. Sorry.
That's okay.
Similar. It's similar. So you're right. So this was, thank you.
Mhm.
Going to the next slide, please. This is the original one, and then we'll go to the next one. So in the next slide, in this slide, this is the proposed. You can, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead and go back, Kimberly. So these are the proposed elevations. So thank you, Sherry. I got ahead of myself there.
Mhm.
So again, what you'll see is that the garage itself has a lower elevation, but it's actually at a lower elevation as well. And so it steps down from high to low. It's a single story. It's attached to the main residence, however. And if you recall the area that extended back into the back of the property from the main residence, if you look at the elevation on the bottom here, that's essentially what you're seeing. So it has an appearance of a two-story. It also has if you go to the next slide, you'll also see that it has appearance of a one-story. This was a cross section of this is basically intended to show how the stem walls are being used to show that it's following the grade primarily from top to bottom, left to right. So I think I left out the other elevation, but essentially the other elevation for that newer residential area on the primary residence would be appearing as a single story if you're looking at it from the north to the south. So it doesn't protrude. It's not a huge two-story on the high side of the elevation, if that makes sense. So if you go to the next slide, please. So again, there are two key findings that we're looking at here amongst other findings, but the project grading respects the natural features. It visually blends with adjacent properties, that the building pad location, design, and construction avoids large flat areas and basically pad grading, what I would call pad grading, and that the project is stepped to conform with the topography. So basically the foundation system has stepped with the topography similar to the previous project, and that's exactly what is being done here again. There's a small area of grading that is being done on the west side and southwest side of the ADU and garage, and it has a small area of 25% slope in there, but it's not visible from the front. You would not see that from the street view at all. And they use a retaining wall to minimize the grading going back into that area. So it makes the cut, it puts the stem wall or the retaining wall right there. It's about 3.5 feet high, and it ends basically that's it. There's nothing more to it. So with that, I think if you go to the next slide, I think that was and the project as with the previous project, although I don't think I mentioned it, both projects are exempt from California Environmental Quality Act. They're a Class 3 exemption, as is this one as well. And if you can go to the next slide. So we're recommending approval with the resolution that's in front of you, and then with those recommended conditions following that. And there's also an Exhibit A attached with that. And that concludes my presentation. And again, I believe Zach, who is the owner, I believe he might be online here. I've let him know that we're hearing this item today, so I'm hoping he is.
Excellent. Well, thank you for your presentation, Planner Wixon. I appreciate that. Before I say any words related to the project, let's open up for public comment in case there's any. Oh, yeah. Let's open up for public comment first and see if anybody has any words they would like to share about this project. And again, if you are on Zoom, you can use the raised hand function, or if you're on your phone, you can do *9, and then Recording Secretary Kimberly will promote you to be able to speak. Doesn't appear that anybody wants to speak, and that is perfectly okay. So I'm going to go ahead and close the public comment. I have a question for you, Planner Wixon, right away. Was there any public comment received about this project after notification of neighbors?
There was not.
Okay, excellent.
If I can mention, though, I forgot to mention in the previous item that we did receive a notice of a letter of support by email for 980 Madeline. So
Well,
just FYI, I would just
good. I'm glad it was a happy
Yeah,
comment
yeah.
since it was left off. That's great to hear. So you pretty much answered all the questions I have about this one, and it was obviously it was burned in the fire. There was lush trees and beautiful trees before the fire, and it was really difficult to tell what's left on site. Will there need to be any tree removal for this project?
not that I saw.
Okay. Unfortunately, but that's what I was assuming. So a very straightforward approval for me on this one. The findings, you've shown how they're able to be met. As with the last project, because it's a residential area, I will be, excuse me, amending the second condition of approval to limit construction hours to between 8 and 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, and 9 to 5 p.m. on Saturday, leaving the statement related to Sundays and holidays unchanged. So if the applicant is here, I would love to hear that they are okay with that.
Okay, it looks like we have Marcy Bradner. I'm going to send a prompt for you, Marcy.
Hi, thank you. I am one of the owners and we're totally okay with that.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate that. Sounds like you have a nice tight neighborhood.
We do.
Excellent. Well, with that, I will be signing the amended resolution. This action is final unless an appeal is filed with the city clerk's office within 10 calendar days of today's decision, which would be Monday, August 29th, 2022. And with that, that concludes today's business and this meeting of the zoning administrator.